When it comes to being in sales and business, how can you tell when somebody is a closer versus when somebody is a poser? This is important for you to know. I'm Sylvan Bell. I'm coming to you live from Sacramento, California on a perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about business. Now, here's the thing. There are plenty of people out there in the world of sales who say, I'm a closer, but in reality, they're a poser. So how can you tell? Well, a closer is going to know their limitations. They're going to know across the board what they can do and what they can't do. And I see this happen a lot where I'll ride with a salesperson and they'll get into the sales process and in their mind they're thinking, how can I close this deal? And they make stuff up in front of the buyer. They tell the buyer, hey, my product can do things that it can't. And so what happens is they close the deal and later on down the road, they get you, I gotcha moment. And so lying to a buyer about what your product can do and what it can't do is the purest form of sales sabotage. You are doing everything you can at that point to not be a good salesperson. So that's one way that a salesperson who is a closer knows their limitations. The second thing is they know what their product can and can't do. And what I mean by this is they know how to give in that presentation and explain like, hey, look, here's the thing. My product can't do what you're asking for. If you'd still like it, I'll give it to you, but know that there's a limitation what can be done. 3, they know their limitations as an individual. Now, I don't know how to sugarcoat. It takes a lot. It takes a lot for me to not say what I'm thinking. There's times when I sit with a buyer, I know when I can say what needs to be said in a certain way versus I know when I'm going to get thrown out of a sales call. There was a point where I got thrown out of a ton of sales calls because I didn't know my limitations. I didn't know what I struggled with. I didn't know what could and couldn't be said and what could or couldn't be done. Now that's a benefit for me now because I know where my limits are. I know what I can and I can't do. And so here's the thing. You probably have people in your industry that say whatever it takes to make the deal happen. You probably have people in your industry that don't know about their product or service, and you probably have people in your industry that don't know how to interact with people the right way. I struggled with it for a long time in the beginning of sales. In the early 2000s, I did not do good when dealing with other people under stressful situations, dealing with objections, dealing with rejection, dealing with difficult questions. I really struggle with that. That's why I'm like, hey, look, for you to be a closer versus for someone to be a poser, you got to know your limitations. You got to know when you got to ask for help. And there were times where I raised my hand and say, hey, look, I don't know these things. I took responsibility. I don't know how to deal with this. Who can I find? What coach? What mentor? What program? What can I watch? What can I buy? What book can I read? So you got to know what your limitations are. You have them. And even at this point, there's things that I'm limited by that I've got to get coaching and training for. This isn't just like I'm pointing at you saying, you got to do this. There's things where I'm pointing all my fingers right back at me and saying, hey, there's things that I got to learn how to do too in order for me to be a better presenter in front of a room, in order for me to even still be a better closer in front of people. I've got a pretty darn good closing rate when it comes to closing deals. But there's always that fraction. I know my limitations. I know that I need more training. I know that I need more coaching. But here's the thing. Once you get the coaching and the training, you have to implement. You've actually got to go do the work. And a lot of posers don't do the work. You want to know the difference between a closer and a poser? Someone who knows their limitations, is willing to do the work, willing to take the action, versus somebody who's not. Now you got one thing to do from here, just one thing. Find the subscribe button, click on it, it's like right down here in this box below, click on it, and every time I send out a video, it'll say Scott Bell Consultant sent out a video, you should watch it, which you should. We'll see you soon. Aloha.